TAF. There'll be a number of people listening to this and watching this thinking, what's this TAF trade association?
And it was founded really to bring together trade associations and encourage excellence.
The RHA was invented for the very reason you described. After the Second World War, they wanted to denationalise transport, so the RHA came into existence.
Earlier on, there's never been a more important time for strong, effective trade associations. And we've got to be relevant and we've got to deliver for members, we've got to get stuff done. The world's too fast moving to sit there thinking about it. We should be doing it.
From my own personal experience, the reason I brought the RHA back into TAF, because I didn't know we'd left actually. In fact, I didn't know TAF existed. A similar background to both of you two. I ended up running a trade association, not from a trade association background, but I wanted to understand the best way or the best governance, best practice to run a trade association.
We've got loads of great services and benefits, put on loads of good events, offer training, all the stuff that you'd expect. There's the community that's the most valuable thing.
The more we got involved, the more I love, more benefit we saw from being a member, so the more we wanted to get involved.
Welcome to the next episode of Roadway, the podcast. Today I'm joined by three colleagues from the Trade Association Forum TAF, where we're going to talk about and explore leadership, policy, and how trade associations help shape the future of the sectors they represent. So, initially, to start off with, if I could ask each one of my guests to introduce themselves, talk a little bit about their own professional journey, why they got involved in the Trade Association Forum, and then we'll take it from there. Tim, if I could ask you to go first, please.
Thank you, Richard. So I'm Tim Doggett, Chief Executive of the Chemical Business Association, also Director and Honorary Treasurer of TAF. So my current role is Chief Executive of the Chemical Business Association. We represent the chemical supply chain, which includes everybody from manufacturers, distributors, also logistics, warehousing companies. And my background really is I started in logistics at the age of 16, brushing the warehouse floor. So I started, if you like, at the bottom and worked my way up quickly. My role's taken me all around the world in different countries and doing many different things, but working predominantly in logistics, not just chemicals, but lots of different products. And why did I get into trade associations? So a few years ago, 5-6 years ago, I was managing director for a big logistics company, transport company. And one thing and another, I got this opportunity to come on to the CBA and gave it a go. And I think what I really like is, what motivates me is, at that time we were heading up towards Brexit. We didn't know about the pandemic then, but there was lots of things I'd learned over many years that I thought I could bring to the CBA and to help benefit CBA members. And I think as we go into 2026, and I've said it multiple times, as you know, Richard, there's never been a more important time for a strong, effective trade association. So yeah, lots of motivations, lots of reasons, and it's also a privilege to be heading such a prestigious trade association like the CBA.
Sure. Thanks, Tim. Julia.
Hi, I'm Julia Garvey. I'm the Deputy Director General for the British Educational Suppliers Association. So we have around 400 members, and the way we describe it is if you take a school and you take out the teachers and the pupils and you turn the building upside down and shake it, everything that falls out could be supplied by a BISA member. So that's everything from tech to playground equipment to stationery to the curriculum materials. My background, a little bit like Tim, is I worked for companies that are members of BISA before. So my background is sales and marketing. And I've worked through mainly education publishers and then some ed tech suppliers. I worked for quite a while as a freelance consultant. I did a little bit of consultancy work for BISA, so have been in and around BISA membership for a long time. And then again, like Tim, 2019, an opportunity came up to move over and to work with BISA. And actually, I've really enjoyed it. I really like bringing a little bit of commercial insight to the organisation. It hadn't really had someone with a commercial background before. And having been in membership, I knew which bits of membership I valued and have been able to kind of bring that insight in with me. I love working with members. I like being part of the community. Got involved with TAF because it's just part, again, it's just an extension of the work that we do with with our own members. And I think trade associations have a really important part to play, both for our industry, but also for wider industries.
I agree with that. I think there's a uniqueness about TAF, which we'll unpack as we go through this conversation. Harry, same question to you.
So my name is Harry Shackleton. I'm the commercial director of TAF and have been for the past 4 years. My background is not like Tim and Julia, not exclusively in trade associations. I've spent 20 years working in UK public affairs, mainly for agencies in that field, but in that time have worked with innumerable trade associations and member bodies. They're a key part of the public affairs community, so they've always been part of my world. And 4 years ago, I should start 5 years ago, I set up a consultancy with a partner of mine, Emily Wallace, who's now the chief executive of the Trade Association Forum. And 4 years ago, we were called in by the TAF board to come and help execute a turnaround and rebuild TAF post-pandemic. So that's kind of how I got involved. And throughout my career, I've worked with trade associations and really valued the role that trade associations play in contributing to civil and political society. So the opportunity to get involved in TAF was a great one to seize.
Yeah, that's great, is it, Harry? Thank you. You're an interviewer's dream, so it's a lovely segue into my next question. So TAF, there'll be a number of people listening to this and watching this thinking, what's this TAF Trade Association? How did it form? How did it come into existence? So what are the origins of TAF? Who wants to? Shall we start?
Jump in.
Go for it.
So the Trade Association Forum was founded in 1997, and a key figure behind its foundation was Michael Heseltine. And it was founded really to bring together trade associations and encourage excellence, knowledge sharing, and all different things. And originally it was housed in the CBI. And then as of 2014, it became a standalone entity, and it's been fully independent, if you like, since that. As Harry says, pandemic really tested it, really challenged it, but it came through, which is testament to Harry and the team, for sure. And the last few years, I've seen it go from strength to strength. And, key events like the best practice exchange, the awards, they all, for me, exemplify what it was founded for back in 1997, to bring together trade associations and share best practice, collaborate together, cooperate. But also, the phrase I often use is stronger together. So we may all represent different parts of British industry or British manufacturing or British whatever in the economy, but we all have common challenges, common issues that we can work together for the better good.
And you've kind of answered the question too, but probably for you, Julie, is what's the real benefit? If you could have one, what is the one benefit of being in TAF in your role? What do you get most from TAF?
I think it is what Tim says, it's that being able to benchmark yourself against other trade associations. So initially we got involved for the benchmarking survey. That's why I think BISA had joined originally, was to get that insights and data that's produced every year. So you can look at whether your salaries, how they benchmark against what other people are paying, but also where you're investing. So are we investing enough in IT? Is our spending on parity with other associations? Does our income balance? How much of a proportion of our income comes from membership fees versus other activities? So I think that was one of the drivers for joining TAF. But one of the drivers for becoming more involved was to kind of build a network and have people you can then ask more questions based on the back of that. And actually what I've learned from just meeting other people, other TAF members, is, that there's a connection, or there's an idea, or there's a bit of inspiration there that you can bring back to your own sector. And when it's getting tough, as things are not that easy for our members at the moment, as I'm sure, and I know that a lot of membership bodies are facing similar challenges, to be able to see that you're not on your own and to understand what other people are doing to address the same challenges, and as Tim said, to work together to present a kind of united front on things that have to go to government, really means we can punch above our weight and feel as a small association that we're making informed and impactful decisions.
I think that's a really relevant point you made there. And how many members does TAF have at this point in time?
It's just reached the 190 mark. So, yeah.
And how many businesses does that represent? If you look
it's more than 200,000 now. So across the country in every sector, you can imagine, from micro businesses through to huge global multinationals.
And I think that's one of the, I mean, from my own personal experience, the reason I brought the RHA back into TAF, because I didn't know we'd left, actually. In fact, I didn't know TAF existed. A similar background to it to both of you two, where I ended up running a trade association, not from a trade association background, but I wanted to understand the best way or the best governance, best practice to run a trade association. So go and meet other trade association people. And from the introductions that you both gave, actually, it shows how diverse and representative and different all trade associations are. So there's not one size fits all. So, you know, the RHA is different to CBA, which is different, and it doesn't run the same way, but there's bits that you take that you can make really relevant. I think it's one of the best kept secrets around this TAF, in my opinion, but I think we're all slightly biased on them.
I think also, sorry, just interrupt, but I think the other thing I've learned is that a lot of the trade associations have been through cultural change in the last sort of 5 to 10 years, even prior to Brexit and prior to COVID, but definitely since. Associations have had to modernise. They've moved away from being old boys networks, which I think a lot of them were originally, 10, 15 years ago. And again, to be able to see how other associations have been through that cultural change and how they've enacted the change and the governance piece that you talked about, Richard, I think has been really valuable.
Just to build on that, I think that a lot of what we're talking about here is the community, and that's one of the key pillars of what we do at TAF. We got loads of great services and benefits, put on loads of good events, offer training, all the stuff you'd expect. But it's the community that's the most valuable thing. It's the ability to connect people who are going through things that Julia talked about with someone else who's done that, and actually that finding out that you've got someone to talk to. When running a trade association, as you all know, can be a lonely job at times, but actually TAF can provide that community where you can find people to share challenges, share opportunities, and work through things together.
Yeah, it's like a support network, isn't it?
Yeah.
That you can call upon people. And just this morning, I had an email from one of the members asking about changing their articles. So we've done that at CBA. We're looking at it for TAF. So yeah, it's how we can help each other. But I just go back to where trade associations came from, and certainly after the First World War, when there was devastation across Europe and time of rebuilding, the government asked for every trade to have an association, and every member of a trade to be a member of an association, because it gave the government a one-stop shop to reach lots of people through only a small number of people, a small number of organisations. What's really important for me is over 20, 30 plus years of working in transport, logistics, etc. in different countries and working with trade unions and associations, is if you don't change, then you become extinct. And what I like about the TAF is that it also drives innovation, it drives different thinking, it drives the basics of governance and stuff like that, which you have to do. But I think we need to be more than just a traditional trade association now, which I know all of us strive to do that, not just to be that old boys network or
Absolutely.
club.
So just drilling down into a bit more, Tim, and again, an interviewer's dream with this. We live in a time of rapid change. We've got AI, we've got different generations entering the workplace, we've got skill shortages, we've got lots of changes everywhere in the world. What do you see collectively and individually as the top challenges facing this trade association? Because just to probably compare that question a little bit more, the RHA was invented for the very reason you described. After the Second World War, they wanted to denationalise transport, so the RHA came into existence. At the time, there was an organisation which is still around today called the FTA, which had been here for 70 years plus, but that was more for the overall freight stuff. But during that 81 years now, there's been a significant change in the industry, and that, basically, to summarise it, we've got a lot more technology. Information is a lot freer to it. So everybody wants things for free, and they don't see the value, particularly in a trade association, whereas there's other options available to them, shall we say. So what are the biggest challenges probably facing your trade association, then collectively, if we put our TAF hat on and say looking at it across the board?
I think right now, this minute, the challenge that we're facing is the economic situation of our members. So all of our members rely on schools as their customers, and funding to schools has been dramatically cut. So funding into schools is lower in real expenditure terms than it was 11 years ago. So they're feeling the squeeze, which means that an association membership has to be, it's an easy thing for people to strip out of a budget cut. So we have to work harder to make sure that we are seen as an essential tool, an essential purchase for them. And to do that, we have to really understand what's going on with our members and how we can support them. So that's led us to diversify some of the things that we offer. So again, we have to double down on our policy work and staying close to government to be able to influence funding into schools. That's key. Also with technology changes, you were saying that the work on AI and safeguarding is kind of central to what's going on with our members as well at the moment. But there are lots of international opportunities for our members. So our international work has increased since the pandemic, actually. So my role has changed significantly, and now probably about 70% of my role is internationally focused, which it wasn't previously, because that's where the market opportunities are. So as an association, I think we have to reflect the challenges of our members, but also have one eye on where that membership is going to go in the future and how we can support them, but also where our revenue is going to come from, and making sure that we're flexible and fleet of foot to be able to service our members, but also have an eye on the future and make sure that we're developing our own business so that we can remain relevant and still be here to support them.
Tim, same question to you, please.
So our number one priority is members, is our members, and the day-to-day stuff never stops. And their number one, or one of their main challenges, is the economy. It's when you talk about sustainability, it's not just climate or things like that. It's also just simple sustainability of business right now. And the government's talked a lot about growing the economy. Whatever they've done to do that is open for debate. But for me, businesses grow the economy, and the government needs to set the conditions for businesses to grow, develop, and then the economy grows. But there's also a lot of headwinds facing us, and certainly things like Brexit, which people don't really talk about anymore. Brexit still isn't done. There's still a lot of legacies from Brexit that are still to be fixed in the chemical supply chain. The thing about chemicals as well is it's a word that people don't necessarily like to use, chemicals. I often call it the C word. But they're essential to everyday life. So whether it's to sustainability, to the economy, it's the second biggest export commodity, along with pharmaceuticals from the UK. And it's also vital to sustainability. So that's where all the innovation is happening. So all those things happen every single day. But the big challenges are, say, impacts of Brexit, Trump tariffs during last year. It's a real globalized market, lots of pressure from Asia, China in particular, and it's shifting all the time. And we have to be this place where we offer a help desk. So we drop at the drop of a hat, we'll answer questions, we'll get involved whatever we need to do. And at the same time, looking ahead, working with government, working with international organisations on safety, security, and all sorts of other stuff. So yeah, for me, it's an exciting role, as you say, lots of international stuff as well. So yeah.
Thank you. Harry, from a TAF perspective, same question. So what are the top challenges facing TAF in the next 5 years? What do you say?
I think it comes down to relevance, and that's what the heart of what both Julia and Tim were talking about. You've got to be relevant to your members so that the membership becomes a must-have, not a nice-to-have, which in difficult economic climate is essential. For TAF, that job's slightly trickier because we're not in a single vertical, we're horizontal, so we're across the entire economy, so we can't do anything particularly sector specific. But the universal thing of all of our members is that they're trade associations, so we need to lean into that. We're the only representative body that represents just trade associations in the UK, so that is our niche, and that's what we want to occupy. We're just in the middle of reviewing our 5-year strategy, actually, so we're in a really good place to be thinking about this over the next few years. And one of the things that's come out, sneak preview of the data that we've already seen, the quant data, is that people want TAF to be more vocal. TAF was set up to be a forum for sharing the best practice, like Tim described at the start. But I think that need has shifted slightly from what members are telling us, and they want us to be more on the front foot, championing the role of trade associations and the great work that all of your associations do and the other 187 members do for their specific markets, because there's a huge resource of expertise, of data, all this stuff that is not being tapped into properly by government, by the media, by everyone, and we need to bang that drum louder as TAF. I think that's the message that's coming from the strategy. But sneak preview, wait a couple of months to see the full results.
I mean, yeah, can I just add to that? Because like we said earlier, there's over 200,000 UK businesses collectively represented by 190 organisations. So the government has this untapped opportunity.
It does.
Really. Okay, we as TAF, as other trade associations, we have daily dialogue with the government, but it's an untapped resource. It's like, say, a best kept secret, but it's an untapped opportunity. And it's got to be up there with any of the big names in terms of influence and impact.
I mean, just for clarity, maybe for our listeners, of which there'll be many, no, actually. Oh, if they're still settling and struggling to come to what is TAF? And we understand TAF because we're part of it. We're part of the governance structure around it. We run it. But actually, to a member of the RHA, a member of the CBA, whoever it may be, what is TAF? What's our purpose in life?
Well, quite simply, it's a trade association for trade associations, which is slightly meta, but it's doing exactly what sort of Julia and Tim have described they do in their day-to-day work, but for trade associations. So our job is to represent the interests of trade associations and help them be better at what they need to do, which comes down to recruiting and retaining members. It comes down to interacting with government, and every association is slightly different, but the tenets are the same. So our job is to help them be more effective.
And the second part of that role, I think, is what you're saying, Harry, from the standard correctly, is what's come out from our recent engagement with the industry being trade associations, is they want us to be a continual reminder to key stakeholders of the relevance of trade associations.
Yeah, exactly. So to celebrate the role of trade associations and draw more attention to the opportunity that exists within not just TAF's members, but there's circa 1,000 trade associations in the UK representing every single sector you can imagine. Some you probably can't imagine. And there's a key, we need to be banging the drum to government, to anyone that will listen, to say, hey, this resource exists. Who's here with expertise, with career opportunities for people, and there's some incredible career stories in trade associations of people who've gone from intern to chief executive in meteoric fashion, and there's loads and loads of great things that are happening in the sector, and TAF needs to be the voice of the sector to shout about them.
There's a mix. There are some associations who will have really good relationships within government, and there are others who struggle to get that engagement. But if there were an understanding with external stakeholders about what a trade association is and the role that they have, then that just creates that atmosphere where each association can go in and make their own connections, knowing that they haven't got to start from why should you be talking to me, and why am I important? If all of that work is done for you, it just means you can focus on the issues at hand. And from my own personal experience, when we deal with across, I think, 3 or 4 different government departments. A couple of them we have really strong relationships with, and 1 or 2 of them are quite hard. It's like pulling teeth, and it's so much harder to get work done when you're having to you're on the wrong foot all the time. So the work that TAF can do can really augment the work that RHA do for your members by laying that strong groundwork.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really, really powerful way to demonstrate that. So TAF will be in existence 30 years next year.
Yeah.
Founded by Michael Heseltine. We're all part of the board and run the organisation. So governance and leadership is, in any organisation, is a very important element. So from serving on the TAF board, which is a question obviously for yourself, Julia and Tim, what's it taught you about leadership, if anything? It can be nothing. What have you learned by? I've got an answer for that. What have you learned by serving on the board of TAF or being part of that construction?
So again, I think it comes back to what we can bring to the board as well. So I bring 30 years of experience of leadership and management and operational commercial stuff. But what I learn is to work with others, is to learn off other people as well, and how to augment or complement that. My role as honorary treasurer, as you keep reminding me,
Anybody else?
honorary,
Yes.
also requires a real eye for detail and governance, and working with Harry and our accountant. It's just having that insight into other trade associations, having the insight into how other people work, common challenges, common issues. There's a lot to be gained from being part of that network. And it's not just about being on the board. Even if I wasn't on the board and still be heavily involved in TAF going forward. So yeah, just to pick up on what was said before as well. A lot of the work that trade associations do is evidence based, and there's a lot of voices out there. And what you say, Harry, is really relevant to me. The TAF has to be out there championing trade associations. It's not just a forum for best practice and so on. It should also be out there, and it is out there. That's why we're doing the podcast today, to talk about the work of trade associations. And just a shameless plug again, because next year's is our 30th anniversary as TAF. I think it would be great to have a National Trade Association Day, as some of us in the room know, and a great opportunity to champion what the work of trade associations is.
And also, just before I come to you, Julie, just to add to that, I think this year is the first year, certainly for a while, we've got our parliamentary event in January, which again, it's making representation with the key stakeholders in Westminster, reminding them of the value of trade association. Julie, same question to you.
I think what it's taught me being part of TAF is passion. You can see so much passion around the table. Everyone is passionate about their industry, passionate about their members. It's that ability to be, like Tim was saying, to be close to and listen to your members and being their advocate. And that's, I think, a common thread through everybody who's involved in TAF. We are all a bit different. We all bring different skills. There are different sectors. Some are kind of more hard-nosed, some are softer skills, but there's a good balance. So for me, the ability to have a strong vision, both for our own associations, for our members, and for TAF itself, to listen to our members and to be flexible, to adapt to what they need. Because I think, as you were saying, Harry, about hearing from the data about what members are asking TAF to do now, we've had a similar thing from our strategic review in BESA, in that we'd never actually put ourselves as a way of making direct connections with schools, but that's what our members are asking for us now. So it's a whole new area of work that we hadn't done before. But because the market has changed and our members are looking for something different, we need to adapt in order to support them. And again, being able to draw on what other people around the table or other members of TAF have done enables us to diversify into those areas with more confidence, because there's people that I can call on for support if needed.
Well, again, I think that's a very good summary. For me, it's one of those words behind me on the values of the RHA. It's about the collaboration side. It's always, listening is a skill, and people need to listen more. But if you do listen around the table at TAF, there's some great ways of doing stuff. And it doesn't matter how large or small you are as a trade association. You should always, just listen and learn from each other.
I think that's a really important point. Being a member of TAF is we've all got the same voice.
Yeah.
So no TAF member association, in my opinion, has greater voice than anybody else. And whether we're on the board or not, okay, there's a difference, but that doesn't make us any more influential, if you like, in terms of benefits we get from the traders from TAF. But the other thing to draw back on that, it's not just about the big associations, it's also about the smaller associations that can then draw on, they can fast track resources. So I mentioned about the articles of association, but it could be competition law, or it could be good governance, or it could be all the other things that TAF runs, different events. The best practice exchange is exactly what it says on the tin. It's the best practice exchange. And one person associations can go along on the day, meet lots of different providers, suppliers, so on, all tried and tested.
Yeah.
And again, talk to each other. What's your big problem? What's the big challenges? What are the opportunities? Things like AI we mentioned before. So yeah, it doesn't matter whether you're a big association, small association.
No, I agree. And I think one of the things from a trade, I'll come in a second, Julie, from a trade association perspective is, I think it was the day after the budget, you did a webinar about what does this budget mean to you. And I said to my guys in the policy team, and this is just for context, and it's not easy, I'll probably employ more people in the policy team than most of the members of TAF do as a trade association. So when are we doing ours? It's just that reminder that actually we've got all this, but actually we're not doing the basics that our members need, and be humble enough to learn from that and come away. So we did one a week later. But anyway, we got there. Sorry, Julie.
No, I was just going to pick up I mean, that's a really great point because it does make you think. But I was going to pick on what Tim was saying about we don't get any extra benefit from being on the board. But I think where you do get extra benefit is if you are going to join any association, and TAF is just like any other association, you get out what you put in. So if you join an association and you never take part, you're not going to get as much out of it. But if you join TAF and you need to make sure you come to the webinars, you need to make sure you come to the best practices exchange, you need to make sure you look at the marketplace, because otherwise you will get to the end of it and go, well, I don't know what I got out of that, but you're just missing so many opportunities. And I think that was one of the things that led me to where I am now, because the more we got involved, the more more benefit we saw from being a member. So the more we wanted to get involved. It's a ever increasing circle, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we're drawing towards the end of this podcast now, just a couple more questions, if I may. First of all, start with you, Eric. What excites you the most about the future of TAF?
Ooh, big question. I think the new strategy is genuinely exciting. For the first time since I've been involved in TAF, as we mentioned at the start, we came from a sort of difficult pandemic, and a bit of it has been sort of fixing the foundations. And actually, for the first time, we can look forward genuinely for 5 years and plan an exciting program of what we want to do, and ask the members that and get them involved and sort of reset the clock a little bit. And I think that's a genuine opportunity because, as Julia mentioned, we've got to keep up with what members want. Otherwise, we'll become irrelevant and sort of drop off the radar. So that's a really big moment for TAF. I'm not sure, certainly hasn't had a long-term strategy in the time that I've been involved. I'm not sure there was one for years before. So actually, that's a really exciting moment that we should see crystallize in the next couple of years. Alongside that, there's the, as we continue hopefully to grow, we're attracting new members, we're building, there's the opportunity to do more. And think about what more we do, what more is going to add value to members. And actually, again, it's having those options and decisions to make, and working with the board and with the rest of the members. There's a genuine opportunity to try and do more with TAF, because all the building blocks are there to really kind of jump on from here, which is exciting.
Julia, same question for you.
There's a lot more to TAF than there was sort of 4 years ago, as you say already, and without where it's going in the future. And again, I think I'm with Harry. I'm kind of excited to see how industry changes, because I think that is going to drive a lot of what we do within our own associations, but also what TAF has to do. So what happens with the economy, what happens with AI? There's a lot of talk, but what does that actually mean for members, and how will that pan out? Again, just kind of the bigger the community, the more we can learn from each other. So as we continue to grow, what are the new and exciting lessons that are just around the corner that we can all learn from?
So I think I remember before the pandemic, before Brexit, and we used to think about what was normal, and then we went through the pandemic, we went through Brexit, and Brexit still isn't done. But we'd be saying, God, when will it be normal again? So I'm not sure I think this is now the new normal. I think it's the world's changing so quickly. When you look at what's happening in America, what's happening in China, what's happening in other parts of the world, we have to remember, as I've said before, that although we may have left the EU, we're still part of Europe, but we're ultimately a small island off the coast of Europe. That's what the UK is. And all of that cries out for working together. And there are a lot of voices out there. There's a lot of division out there. There's a lot of polarized views. There's a lot of confusion, disinformation, misinformation. So I think one of the things that I think TAF can do is focus on an evidence-based perspective of what's right. I think it's right. But also from a neutral point of view, we don't have a political drum to beat. It's not about who's in government, it's about an effective government. But yeah, I think as I started off saying earlier on, there's never been a more important time for strong, effective trade associations. And we've got to be relevant, and we've got to deliver for members. We've got to get stuff done. The world's too fast moving to sit there thinking about it. We should be doing it.
So with that in mind, and this is the final question, it's a short answer, I'm not really prescriptive. If you were to say what's one priority for every association leader to focus on in 2026, so what is the one priority to focus on if you're going to focus on one?
So I'll answer with more than one. I would say you've got to get the vision right. You have to have the vision right. So that's the one priority. Then in delivering that's the next part of it. You've got to get the vision right, know what it is, and then be relevant. And ultimately, you've got to deliver for your membership. That's all that matters at the end of the day, is because they pay our wages. So that's what we need to do.
Julie.
Taking all the best lines. Well, I was just going to say, listen to our members, making sure that we're connected and engaged with our members as much as them engaging with us. We need to engage with them to make sure we are relevant and that our vision is aligned. So that would be my tip.
At the risk of repeating everyone, it's got to be members. A member, like association, has got to be listening to its members, engaging with its members. Without them, it's nothing.
Well, I agree. I mean, because we are trade associations, we're membership led. We're not for profit, so it all goes back in for the benefits of the members, and therefore the clue's in the title. It's got to be. Thank you very much for your time today. I appreciate that, and hopefully that's given you a good insight to the work of TAF and to that of trade associations. Thank you.